If you can and you're willing to support us, please do so. We'd really appreciate it. We're trying to expand the platform, trying to pay these bills. You can go to dgutspodcast.com. That's Don't Give Up the Ship apparel, some naval pride and heritage gear you'll actually wear in public. Get shirts, hoodies, shower shoes, drawstring bags, all kinds of cool stuff. Dope stickers like these. You can get logo stickers. We got the enlisted deviant stuff, all kinds of cool stuff. More to come. Working on lots of designs all the time. We also have the podcast challenge coin, just came out. I'm really proud of that. And then if you also are willing to and able to, please go to patreon.com/dgutspodcast. A lot of really cool benefits, tiers, all kinds of cool stuff to try to drive support for the financial side of the platform. There's demands on all of the things that I want to do to expand, cost money, all the services and subscriptions and all those things. And I am trying to turn this thing into a business and a job so that I can do that and devote all my time to providing more content, services, whatever I can do that helps you out. So if you're willing and able, please go to dgutspodcast.com. You can also go to patreon.com/dgutspodcast and become a member today. What's up, everybody? Let's spin some yarn. All right, so last night I was in a conversation with a couple of people that basically brought like a problem and a question to my attention, and were just posing the question to me of like running into resistance from like senior, like very senior enlisted leadership when having a conversation about enlisted leadership development. Part of it being just like a criticism of the existing structure, and then part of it being like, and I mean like the enlisted leadership development structure, so like the capacity that the organization has to develop leaders, and then also like a criticism of just enlisted leadership period, right? Like the competency side of it that I talk about so much. So when having a conversation about it, the sailors I was talking to just encountered a bunch of resistance when talking to very much my demographic, like 20 plus year Master Chiefs, encountered a bunch of resistance in the form of like, just defending the existing infrastructure and presenting their arguments with an attitude of like how dare you question me and my competency, right? And like the way that the way that the point was presented by the sailor who not, you know, E6 and below type, not in the mess, was from like a researched position, like I'm talking like receipts, like the health of the force survey, suicide surveys, a bunch of stuff, basically OQE saying, hey, leadership is the problem. And that's not my opinion. That's the analysis of all of these documents. And like, here you go. Here they are. And when presented with this objective evidence, the argument was, oh, there's not a problem, and have you even been to ELD yet, and stuff like that, right? So and really what was confusing to the person inquiring about this was the psychology of it, basically, like how when presented with this evidence can you possibly defend the existing structure. So that's what I'm going to kind of unravel here and try to answer. So, and I kind of did for the person already, but I would like to pull it apart and do a long form-ish discussion of it, because I think that the audience would be interested as well. So I didn't want it to just be, you know, contained to that text thread, but which I learned how to use the voice memo thing in my iPhone yesterday. Not like the recording memo thing, but like how you send a text, but it's voice. I guess I knew it was real because people have sent it to me before. But I had no idea how to use it, and I recorded like a 5-minute rant that didn't even send, and so then I had to do it again later. But anyway, a little fun misadventure. of mine with being old and not understanding technology. So, to start at the beginning, the existing leadership development structure is largely irrelevant to the argument being made by, again, like my peer group, right? Because it's been this way for as long as I can remember, and I don't know that I even thought about it until I was a chief. But, you know, so like I would say like in the last 10, 12 years, I've heard the argument made that like basically the chief's mess are these leadership experts, and we're very like good at developing leaders as a mess, and that we're like this like leadership oracle, and come to us and we have the answer, and like there's all the catchphrases that you hear, like ask the chief and results not excuses and all that kind of crap. It's very much woven into our culture that like the mess as a collective organization is like where you go for leadership information, like guidance, advice, training, education, all the things. Like that's where you go. That's where officers go for advice. That's where junior enlisted go for the same advice and guidance and training and all those things. Like we train junior officers, we train new chiefs. So I've heard the argument made from the very beginning that not only is that the case, but then when questioned, like I've felt the pushback to varying degrees of like, oh, well, we have leadership development. Like we have PO Indoc. We have Sailor 360 or CPO 365 phase 1, or now we have ELD, right? And I'm not saying, like, you guys know how I feel about NLIC ELD. It's a large step in the right direction. Like it's from what every report I've ever been given by people who have gone through it, people who facilitated it, everything, like, and the research I've done, I didn't get to go to the classes. I never got to get qualified as a facilitator, not for lack of trying, just conflicted schedule-wise while I was still on active duty. But I reviewed a lot of the course material. And yeah, like I think it's a giant step in the right direction. It's great. Like that we finally did something meaningful. I don't think it's enough, but it's a great step. But to point at that in the same way that I've seen people point at all those other things I just mentioned and say that like, no, like, see, we fixed it. Like, have you even gone to ELD yet? You know, like to use that as an excuse for our rampant organizational leadership incompetence. Like it's Navy-wide leadership incompetence, right? So to use it as an excuse for that being our current status, and to even act like there's not even a problem, like no, we're killing it. Like this is awesome. Like our leadership is amazing. And then go read the Health of the Force survey, and like I was sent a highlighted slide by one of the people I'm talking to, and I'm going to do a more research-based approach to this at some point, but it's going to take a while because I got to do all the research and then compile it and then present it. But under Survey Insights, it talks about, it has like a chart, right? Like there's a bar graph and like a line diagram talking about people's career plans and stuff. And then when it's talking about reasons that people cite when leaving the Navy leadership is listed. But when you read the most commonly cited influence to stay in the Navy, it's all about pay, benefits, stability, right? Not Navy leadership, right? So it's cited as one of the main reasons people are like, nah, I don't want to do this anymore. And that's not like an isolated report. I've been hearing that for a decade. When I went to Navy Career Counselor School in like 2013, they talked about one of the biggest reasons people were getting out was Navy leadership. And that's what they would cite as they exited the military, was like leadership incompetence, essentially. It's something that they are not unaware of, like at the highest levels. Like they can't be, with the number of times they've been told. But I think if you're looking at the mess Navy wide, I don't think they're aware of it. Not in the same way, right? Like most chiefs, like fleet chiefs that are out there just doing the damn thing, they don't have time to scrub through the health of the force survey. But when you get up to like the high level flag CMC level, like they're aware of it and above, right? When you're in DC now and we're talking about CNP and like the MCPON and the CNO and all that, they know there's a giant problem. But I think there's like an apathetic approach to it, like it's not the most important thing. Because while they're aware there's a giant problem, I don't think they're aware that it's the most important thing. Like I don't think that most of those people would agree that leadership development and education is the most important thing. And if they did, they have a misconception that something like Navy like the ELD program is enough to fix it, right? And that somehow like naval enlisted leadership isn't as important as what the officers are doing. And I would contend that most officers aren't really leading. They're managing. They're doing strategic and tactical things. They're like the executive level, like which you leadership, but it's like you're mainly managing, really. So to kind of come back around, like I don't think there's a general awareness of there being a problem, right? And for the end user of this, like, attempt at leadership it's horrific. Like, it doesn't, no matter what the organization's analysis of its own ability to train leaders and to actually lead people, the end user is the one that is going to be like the judge of that. Like the E6 and below is like the organizational mood ring, and that shit is on fire. Like you can't think for a second that that the reaction to the product you're delivering, for lack of a better articulation, I guess, the leadership you're delivering to the fleet is driving them out of the military in droves, and nobody wants to join in a depressed economy. That's horrific. Like, that's not where we want to be, and it's a really dire and like emergent illustration of how big of a deal this is, and how quickly we need to act to deal with this problem. So it's not like the evidence isn't there and the indications aren't there. And I don't think there's an argument to be made that it's not true, right? So now we're at a point where we're like, okay, we know there's a giant problem, right? For some reason, the people, again, in my peer group, like the 20 plus year Master Chiefs, the command Master Chiefs, the people in command SEL roles, right? There's still a pretty staunch resistance to criticism and like being called out and being pushed on these types of things. Even when presented with evidence, you get most of the time you're going to get like pushback. You're going to get resistance. Maybe not like vehement, like you're wrong, this is all made up, this is just about like I'm sure there's some of that where it's just like, these are just disgruntled sailors that hated their jobs and are taking it out on naval leadership. Like, I've heard that. I've debriefed a DGUTS survey as a Simio to my triad only, door closed, right? And they're like laughing at the comments, discarding them all. Like, there was probably a dozen of them directly critical of our command SEL. And it was just like, they were like laughing it off. Like, the peasants are upset, like... And it's like, no, that is not what this is for. So that is a part of it. It's all part of it is those when they're presented with those criticisms and with that evidence, which that's kind of anecdotal evidence or like subjective evidence, but it's still evidence, right? And when you aggregate it, and then I can put it into like little pie charts and stuff, which they do in those surveys, it's like, then you start to see, okay, this is data. Like when you're asking like are you satisfied with leadership, and you get a yes, no answer from a large sample size, like That's now we're into objective quality evidence. And so like, and they still like just discard it all. Like they don't take those seriously, at least in my own experience anyway. Like I'm sure there's commands that do, but in my analysis, the reason why you're going to get this type of pushback when being critical of leaders, even if you have evidence to present saying, no, really, this is a problem, whether you're willing to acknowledge it or not, it's a problem. The reason why you're not going to get this like shock and like recognition of, oh God, what have I done? And all of a sudden they're like thirsty for leadership development and like, oh, I need to fix myself, is because what happens a lot of the times, and this isn't all of the time, but a lot of the times, either part or I'm going to say all, but I don't know if that's like a significant portion, but like partially or significantly, or maybe even all of a person's identity has got conflated with what they do for a living, right? So if I'm a master chief and I've been doing this for 20 plus years and you're indoctrinated into this like culture of the chief's mess and deck plate leadership and Navy chief, Navy pride and all that stuff, right? And again, I'm not like it's a criticism, but it's not like entirely an attack. Like if you think I'm not like proud to be a chief, like look behind you. Like it's a conflict for me, but like also like I'm very proud of the fact that I was a chief for over a decade and retired as a master chief and blah blah blah. But when you conflate that with your identity, and then somebody presents you with evidence that you're doing your identity wrong, like the thing you're doing that you identify with so completely. And even also like it's like an also, but kind of like a different thing as well. Like even if that's not the case, right? This criticism is still going to be attacking somebody's identity in the way that like in a way that it's like you're saying that they're incompetent. And it's going to attack their identity as a person, even if that's not conflated with being a chief. Hopefully I'm not getting too, like, this is not getting too confusing. But either they're conflating their identity with being a master chief, or they're part of their a big significant part of their identity is just their job, like how well they do their job, how well they take care of their people. Separate from being a chief, just being a leader in general, just being a good person and taking care of their people and just doing a good job. Like everybody wants that sense of belonging to the organization. They want to be a valuable contributing member of the team and they want to do something meaningful. They're not showing up to work and they're not spending 20 years of their lives doing this and investing all this blood, sweat, and tears into getting to where they are to be a failure, right? So there's the identity conflation, and then there's just a human being that wants to do a good job, right? And they've put a lot of time and effort by their own. Like if you look back retrospectively at your career after putting that much time and effort and like time away from family and all the same, they experience all the same sacrifices and pain and throughout their career that everyone does, like some worse than others, right? So when you're pushing back, in their minds, you're effectively attacking everything they've ever done. You know what I mean? Like you're attacking their identity in the one case, or you're just attacking like all the time and effort and resources they've put into what they've done. And what compounds the casualty is it's a logical assumption to think if I present all this quality evidence to these people saying, hey, we have data saying that we are organizationally incompetent at leadership. You're telling this to a person that is smart, is capable of critical thinking skills, however, has been conditioned to think that they're doing a really great job and that they are a leadership development expert and an expert as a leader, like when serving in the role, right? They have stacks of evals, awards, promotions to show you as their own evidence of like, yeah, but you can't be talking about me And they're also going to defend the organization, especially if they're in the conflating their identity with the chief thing. Like, you attack the mess, you're attacking their identity. So they have a ton of validation that they can show you. Like, they got receipts too. They can show you paperwork that says, well, the Navy thinks I'm really good at this. You know, and they're not wrong to think that if the organization is going to promote me to Master Chief and put me